Gridding your cross-stitch project with monofilament before you start stitching is a great way to save hassle, reduce counting, and avoid mistakes that can slow your progress and destroy your motivation. Hi, I'm Ford, and this week on the Caterpillar Cross Stitch channel, I'm going to share with you my top tips for making that process faster, easier, and more effective. I'm going to just jump right in here, but before I do, please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. And when we're done, like the video and leave me a comment. I really want to hit 10,000 subscribers this year, and I'd love it if you were one of them. Now, there are a number of ways that you can grid a cross-stitch project in order to get the benefits of gridding, which mostly is about giving you an absolute frame of reference for your counting to help reduce mistakes and make counting easier and faster. Now, I made a video just last week about some of the other best ways to grid a project, but my favorite is to sew in a grid with a monofilament. The reasons that it's my favorite is that I don't have to wash it out when I'm done. I don't have to worry about it getting snagged in my stitches and being difficult to remove the way other threads might be, or marking up my fabric. It's durable, it's not going to rub off or anything, it's even waterproof, and it's easier to see and just easier to take out. Now, there are a couple of disadvantages, mostly in that it's usually kind of stiff and a little bit difficult to work with. It's a little bit ugly during the work on the progress, but of course you remove it, so that doesn't matter. And it is a little time consuming. It takes some work, but it's worth it to me, especially with a full coverage piece, to be able to reduce mistakes. Now, when you're shopping for a monofilament to grid your project with, it can quickly get overwhelming. A lot of people like to use a product from a brand called Sulky that is Sliver. Google's always going to be like, did you mean silver? But Sulky Sliver is the product, and it's a mylar monofilament, which is really nice to work with, highly visible, and you can get it at like some specialized needlework shops. But what I'm accustomed to using and what I like to use is a monofilament fishing line, partially because it's just really inexpensive. For under 10 bucks, I got a roll of 2,900 meters of that stuff. So it's basically a lifetime supply. But you are going to see a bunch of different options, like colors and weights. So first things first, what weight do you want? I would get 4-pound fishing line. You'll see some people say that you can get up to 8-pound and it will still work. I used 8-pound. I found it too stiff and difficult to work with. I did not like it. So I would recommend getting 4-pound fishing line. And you'll see it in a handful of different colors depending on where you are and how popular fishing is in your area and that kind of stuff. But the most common colors are blue, orange, yellow, and red. Now, red is really great if you work on white fabric a lot, and the yellow is really great if you work on dark or black fabric a lot. I kind of go back and forth between the two, so rather than get several different colors, I decided that I would get something kind of in the middle. And I wound up getting this neon orange color because it's easily visible on both the black and the white fabric that I like to use. Now, once you start shopping for your fishing line, most of the colored fishing line you're going to find is going to say braided fishing line. And you might think that that will do, that will be okay, because the colored monofilament is a little harder to find. But I would caution against getting that because the color that is on the braided line is not inside the filament the way it is with the monofilament. It's like dye that's on the outside of it. And so I discovered when I tried this out, so that you didn't have to, that feeding that through my fabric, if I pull my line back out of here, leaves a mark. Some of that color is left on the fabric at the points where the line passes through the fabric, and I have not been able to wash that out. So, tempting as it may be, don't get the braided fishing line. Make sure it's a monofilament. Now, the purpose of gridding is to make it easier to compare your pattern to your project. So the way we do that is by transferring the most important parts of the grid that exists on the pattern onto our fabric. Now, obviously, this pattern is very small, so it probably wouldn't be worth the time of gridding. But what we're trying to do is to get all of these 10-stitch intersections onto the fabric, so that when we're counting on the project, we have a point that we can compare what's already on the project to what is on the pattern. So we're trying to add all of these little 10 intersections. And there are a handful of ways that we can do that depending on what's easiest for you. One is that you can make lines that are just 10 stitches long on the top of the fabric, like from here to here, and then here to here, on every other one, and you just know that anywhere that a line of a stitch starts or ends, that's a 10 count on the fabric. But personally, what I like to do is to make little plus signs like these ones at my 10 stitch count intersections. Now what that means is that because I need to make the little plus sign, I'm going to make a stitch that is 2 squares long on my fabric, and then it's going to be underneath for 8 stitches, and then another stitch that's 2 squares long. And I'm going to do those horizontally, and then after I'm done with all of the rows, I'll come back and do the ones on my columns. Because I want my lines to be as straight as possible of my stitches, just so that it's that much easier to pull out when I'm done. And I've got one that I've done most of the gridding on here already. You can see I've made all of my little plus signs there. Now when I look at the back of it, it looks pretty different. I've got 8 up and 2 down for each of those. And some people, this is the way that they like to grid, so that most of the line is on the top. That's also totally valid. And one nice thing about this is that it's way easier for me at least to count when I'm looking at the front of the pattern, because I can point at each stitch with my needle as I go along. So even when I'm doing the gridding my way, where I've got the little plus signs on the front, I actually count my gridding from the back of the project, just because it's so much easier to count. And because the monofilament is so slippery and easy to pull through the fabric, I can just do those a whole row at a time, kind of with the sewing method, so that I don't have to pull my whole long piece of filament through the fabric with each stitch that I make. Now, in order to start your grid, the first thing you're going to need to do is figure out where the corner of your piece is going to be on the fabric. If you don't know how to do that, I made a video about figuring out where to start in the corner of a project. I'll hold while you go and watch that one to figure it out. Are you back? Okay, so then what we're going to do, once we've figured out where that corner is going to be, we're going to want to start our line. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. One is that you can just tie a knot in the monofilament, but honestly, I have a real big problem personally with those coming undone or slipping out. So because of who I am as a person, I like to solve every problem that I can with fire. So I can just take a lighter and just kind of gradually and slowly heat up the end of that monofilament, and it will kind of bead up. And it will be tempting to touch this right away, but don't do it until it gets opaque and shiny again. And wait a couple seconds before you touch that, because it's very hot. But then that way I don't have to worry about a knot that will come undone, and I can use that to start my project. And then I'm going to thread the other end of my line through my needle. Now, because it's so stiff and slippery, it has a real tendency to come out of the needle, so I actually come around and thread it through the needle again in the same direction, which is hard to do without sticking my head in front of the camera. And then that gives me kind of a little kink here that will hold it on my needle, so I'm not constantly having to rethread my needle. Now, as with any time I'm working with black fabric, I find it a lot easier to have a light source behind it. So I've got my little tracing pad here, but I found it was too bright, even on its lowest setting, for me to easily be able to see my thread. So I'm just using a sheet of paper, in this case, the pattern page, behind it. And I'm going to start my thread with kind of a waist knot method. So I'm going to stick my needle out into the margin of the fabric that I'm not going to be stitching. And I'm going to actually put it through the weave of the fabric rather than through one of the holes, just to make sure that that little bead of melted filament that I made stays where I want it to. And then I'm going to either count or measure from my corner to the position where I'm going to start my grid, and I'm going to make my little stitch 2 stitches long. And pull my needle through there. Now, once I've made the first one, I'm generally going to do the entire rest of that row in a single pass. So I'm just going to count. And remember that the point where your thread starts is 0, not 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're counting stitches, not holes. We don't want to make that fence post error that I talked about in last week's video. And we just want to make sure we're counting along in the same row of holes, which is where the light table makes it easier because I can see the row of holes more easily. And then I'll just do the rest of the row before I pull them all through. While I'm doing that, don't forget to subscribe to the Caterpillar Cross Stitch Stitch Club email newsletter. You'll get all the latest news about upcoming projects, stitch-alongs, events, socials, that kind of stuff. Plus, as soon as you sign up, you'll get 10 free PDF cross-stitch patterns, which is worth £60. So hit the link in the description or in the first pinned comment to make sure you don't miss out on that. When you're pulling them through, there's a chance you'll get a little twist or kink. Just straighten it out with your needle and then pull it the rest of the way. So now that we've finished that column, then we're just going to carry our thread down 10 to the next and go back across in the other direction. And I find it's easiest for me to just turn the fabric over in order to do that. Now if we flip it over to the front, we can inspect that and double check that we don't have any mistakes. This looks a little bit hard to see, but it is a lot easier for me to see in person than it is on the camera for some reason. Probably because the filament is fluorescent, so there's actually light being emitted from it that the camera can't see. And the other thing is that because the point here is to eliminate errors, and any errors that I introduce into the grid are going to get carried over into the project and be a whole mess to fix, it's a really good idea to frequently double check your counting on the project. So you want to check and make sure that your floss lines line up with each other. And I also like to take my calipers, count out 10 on the grid. These are already set up to that 10 count, and just double check that each line starts at the same place 10 stitches away, and then that the lines are 10 stitches apart. Because I want to be extra careful not to have any mistakes in my grid, because that defeats the whole point and makes it genuinely a complete waste of time. Now once I've done all of the rows of stitches that I need to for the size of my project, then I'm going to do all of the columns. I'm going to just turn the fabric and continue the same process. Now this is actually easier because I don't have to count these. I know that I'm just doing a 2-stitch long little line that crosses each of these at the point where they go underneath. So this is part of why, for me, it's really important to double check at multiple times throughout the process that I haven't miscounted anywhere. Like, you'd think that having survived to this level of adulthood and being allowed to operate heavy equipment and motor vehicle and that kind of stuff, that I'd be able to count to 10. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But sometimes I surprise myself. So I like to use the calipers or some other tool like a ruler or just a piece of paper cut to the appropriate width to double check that all of my counts are 10s, because now I can just cross all of these without counting them. Now, if your piece of filament was too short when you started and you need to make another one, I've again had pretty bad luck with knots tying the pieces together, and I failed that merit badge in Boy Scouts. So what I do is just either tie a single little granny knot or use my melting bead trick and do a similar waist knot. Carry the end out into an area that's going to be a margin of fabric, not going to be part of my project, and just waste it out into there. And then start a new one in the exact same way that I started the original one. And then once you've done it all, you'll wind up with a grid that looks like this, that covers all the area of the fabric that your project is going to be on. And this offers amazing freedom to be able to, rather than having to count from a part that you've done, and then, especially if it's a pattern that has a lot of open space in it, can be really unnerving to have to count far away and just hope that you're correct. If you've got a grid that you know reliably is on all of the 10s, then you can just count from one of those 10s to the position where it's going to be. So if you're doing like cross-country stitching or one that has a lot of confetti or something like that, that is also super useful, because as you're stitching along on, say, a circle, and you come up to a point where it's like, this circle crosses one of those 10 intersections, you can look and be like, that stitch I just made should have been right at the corner of that 10, and it's right in the right spot. So it gives you confidence to keep moving and know that you're not making a mistake somewhere. So it's just another sort of checkpoint along the way. And for me, that's super, super valuable, because it's hard for me, with the way my eyesight works, to count very far away. The longer I keep my eyes open to try to keep my eye focused on something like that, the more my eyes water and the more my vision gets blurry. So being able to just count, never have to count more than 10, and really never have to count more than 5 from an intersection of my grid, is a lifesaver. I can't tell you how much time it saves me on a full coverage project. So those are my top tips for gridding a cross-stitch project with monofilament. It definitely does take some time and can definitely be a bit of a pain, but particularly on a large project or a project with lots of colors or a full cover project, it has been an absolute lifesaver for me. So that is all I have for you this week. I do want to thank you so much for watching. For Caterpillar Cross Stitch, my name is Ford, and I will see you next week.